Go ahead and start with Rob Lewis, then Grant Ramey.
Coach, are you happy with the week off? Would you rather be playing tonight or tomorrow, or do you think this is something that will benefit you guys?
You know what, Rob? I think it's probably good for us right now, because we still got some guys that need to get healed up a little bit. And, they've been in here for the last couple of days trying to work with Chad and G on those type things. And so I think from that standpoint, I think it's been good for us.
Rick, at what point do you kind of say Fulke is what he is at this stage in the season and look for other options down low?
Well, you know what, Grant, again, I don't know. I still believe in John Fulkerson. I do. I know that he's still trying to put the work in to do what he needs to do. He's still a big part of this. And I've seen it happen. I've seen a lot of things in my lifetime in this business. I've seen guys struggle, then all at once the light clicks back on. I've seen guys rolling, then the light goes off. I just don't think you can quit on people that have put everything they've had into the program. And I think that, again, I just believe in him. And that doesn't mean we're not going to have some adjustments that we have to make here or there. But you do that every game. I mean, that goes on in every single game. And I just know that Fulke's trying to do what he can to get it going. And I believe that he can do it. And so that's how I feel about it.
Nicholas Hill, then Ryan Shumpert.
Coach, how much have you looked at the game tape from your previous game against Florida, which was a 75-49 loss? And how much of the issues in that game do you still see your team making, just in terms of all the mistakes from that game to the mistakes your team is making now?
Well, I go back to that game. We were very careless with the ball, turned the ball over a lot. We did have some shots that we practiced that we didn't make, and we lost the ball in a lot of different ways that you can't. We had actually cut the score down, and then all at once we miss a layup and turn it over twice in the backcourt, and the momentum goes from where we were getting a little momentum back the other way. But I would still go back to turnovers. I think that, again, when we do a decent job of taking care of the ball, and then shots, as long as we shoot shots that we practice, shots that are going to come in within the flow of the offense, that part is, if we had nights where we've had open shots and missed them, we have. And that's part of the game. But the biggest thing I think would be we've got to be better defensively, and we've got to take care of the ball better.
How beneficial do you think the week off will be for you guys defensively? Just playing 7-8 guys a lot of minutes, being able to get a week to get their legs back under them.
Well, I think we got to get back to really locking into our coverage. I think the communication's got to get better. And again, you don't want to be talking about communication this time of year, but the fact of the matter is we are. And we've just got to get settled in and understand, again, that when we're all five guys know exactly what we're doing every time out, and they have the mental discipline to go out and execute whatever defense we might be in.
Rob Lewis, Wes Rucker, and David Pascal.
Coach, how healthy is Josiah? It looked like the wrist was still bothering him last week.
He's not. We're hoping this week is good for him. And Josiah's the kind of player, and he would tell you he needs the reps, he needs the work, and he hasn't had a good week of practice, probably going on 2.5 weeks now. So I think this week will be key for him and him getting back. I think his wrist is starting to feel better, but he would tell you the same thing. He needs reps. Right now he needs to get out and get it going again. He's a guy that would tell you he needs to be in the gym where he can be productive. He wasn't able to do that for almost 2 weeks.
Rick, how much can you really change in a week? I know probably a lot of it's more just doing what you want to do, but doing it better. But this late.
Well, that's it. You said it. You just got to do what you do and do it better. I mean, again, you're always tweaking some things here or there, but the bottom line is whatever your base package is, and it's been good to us in so many different ways, but we've just got to do it better. We've got to pass it better. We got to cut harder, cut better, set up our cuts, be ready to screen better. It's all the fundamentals that goes into it. I mean, I could say, could we run a whole new offense and do all that? That's not the answer to where we are right now. It's just a matter of executing and doing the things that we know that we're capable of doing, because we've done it. We just got to do it, and we need to get 7, 8 guys playing at a very high level.
Rick, you said after the Auburn game, an experimental possibility would be Keon, mixing him in as a post presence to see what he can do. How has that gone in practice? And is that something this late in the ball game that could be effective for you?
Well, again, we've played that lineup before. We played him at the 4 some this year. And, but to say we're going to put him there exclusively, I don't think we would do that. But even when he's out there, I mean, you guys have watched us. We post our guards. I mean, we have a package where we're trying to get them in the post as much as we can. And all we're trying to do with our guys is try to put them in the best area where we feel that they're most effective and where they feel most comfortable. And we've had various lineups. We've had it before where he's had to go down there and play and do that. Can he do it? He can. But do I think we're going to do it for, the entire game? We won't.
Gustavo and Rick Russo.
Coach, senior day, the Sunday, I imagine EJ, Eves, and Folky are going to be honored. Their other players are going to be honored. How is it feeling about the senior day this Sunday, as probably some of the players are going to be the last time play at Thompson Bowling Arena?
Well, it'll be much different. Obviously, I hope, and I do know our fans appreciate what John and Folky have given us over their time here. And I know that if it were a typical, year where we would have people in here, I think they would really be able to show that appreciation. But those guys have worked hard. They've done, believe me, they really have tried to give everything they have for the program, and they continue to do that. And EJ, he won't go through it. That's his decision. We left it up to all of them how they wanted to handle it, and I think it's the right thing certainly for Folky and Eve. I mean, they all have decisions at the end of the year they have to make, and at that point in time, you make it. But one thing I don't want to look back, like the one thing I really wish Grant Williams could have had a senior night. Guys that have been through it have meant a lot to the program. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And actually, when I thought about these guys the other day, my thought was that, someday how do you recognize guys that come and give you everything they have, but they have a decision, they choose to leave early. But I just hope that, and I do know that our fans here appreciate what Eves, and they've been a part of a lot of good stuff here, and they've been thrust into some tough situations too. And I think character-wise, you couldn't ask for 2 better people to be honored the way we'd like for those guys to be honored and thought of.
Hey, Rick, a lot has been made about chemistry and confidence. Is that where leadership steps up, and who are those guys right now that are showing the way?
Well, I think anytime you're up and down and you look around the country, it's happened everywhere. I could sit here and I've talked to coaches, and I mean, we all know this is a different year, and yeah, it's tough. It really is. Being inconsistent, it's really, really tough. This is a year where, I talked about it last night on the radio show that we haven't had a chance to have the team bondage that you normally have. We're just not together like we used to be. And so it's different in a lot of ways. But when that happens, I've always said the best led teams are player led teams. And the guys that can do that, I mean, Josiah certainly has a voice. Even Folky, they're not the most vocal guys. That's not within their personality. And the one thing you don't want as a coach, you don't want guys to try to be something that they're not. And there's different styles of leadership. But I was impressed with Keon the other night. I thought he got, for the first time, he got vocal. It's taken him all year, but the other night was the first time it happened. To me, that's great. And it doesn't matter what year you are. I mean, what we need to do, we need everybody this time of year. I don't care where you are. I don't care what's happened up to this point. This is where, I think the real competitors come out and they go. And that's why I still think that we got a group of guys that want to win.
Vince, Wes Rucker, and Rob Lewis.
Rick, considering the year hasn't gone like you expected, and that you want to hold guys accountable and coach them hard, how do you balance that with also trying to give guys confidence to maybe bust out of whatever funks or inconsistent play they've been in?
You know what? We're around them every day. We know them. We know them in ways that nobody else does because of what we get to spend time with them. And you know what? You try a little bit of everything. When you see someone struggling, I mean, yes, sometimes you try to encourage them. You just simple words. Sometimes when they're out of it, sometimes you might feel they need to be jolted, whatever it may be. I've always believed the most important thing is to be honest and let them know, one, it's a battle for everybody. They're not the only ones that go through it. Everybody struggles. I've seen it happen in all different sports where, guys get it going, then they don't, and they bounce back. And when you're in sports long enough, you just realize that how quickly it can turn, either good or bad. But the fact is, it goes back to just, you've got to put your work in every day. You've got to be diligent about understanding the fundamentals, understanding what goes into winning, what goes into losing, what goes into you being a good player in terms of when things aren't going well for you. If you're a guy that's a shooter, how can you affect the game if you're not making shots? And so I think that's the most important thing. And that's when you get down to it, it really comes down to understanding your role and you're playing it in terms of, can coaches help guys through that? Yeah, I think they can, but I think more than any, the guys that I've been through that have struggled through it, they're the ones that work their way out of it. And I can say things, but if our coaching staff, tell you guys all the time, we got a great coaching staff, and we got our hands on these guys all the time. We're trying to keep a beat on them and trying to get them going. And it's just that when you're doing this every day and you're living with guys every single day, you can tell when they feel they have the confidence, when you don't. And yeah, do you encourage them? Yeah, you really do. If you feel like they're doing everything they possibly can, but if you feel like they're not doing everything you possibly can, you're not going to. And if you tell them, start trying to be positive when you know they're not doing it, it's not going to work, because we all know what makes it work in sports. And the way you get out of slumps, you work your way out of them, both physically and mentally.
Rick, is there anything you can share about your conversations with Fulke about going through senior day? Because I imagine the past month or so is not the film he wants to be putting out there for people. Where is he in his decision-making process?
What are you asking me about?
About next season, like if he wants to come
Well,
back.
Again, I just said it earlier, that's stuff that will be talked about later on. I mean, they have options. I mean, Fulke he got options. He could come back here. He could transfer to another school. He could choose to go to the professional route. But I don't think he's thinking about that right now. I don't think he's thinking. I think John Fulkerson is so locked in on because he, like all of us, he wants to help us win. That's all he cares about. Again, yeah, people have called me and said, well, he hasn't had the kind of year that we thought he might have. Well, he knows that too, but he's never made it about himself. If you sit down and talk to him and have a deep conversation with him, I don't care if it would be me or anybody else, he's going to say, Coach, all I want to do is win. And whatever I can do to help this team win, that's what I want to do. And that's where I think his thought process is. I think that's where I like to think everybody's thought process is.
How tough has this been on him? Because I know you talk about all the time how much he cares, and I think anyone who knows him knows that's probably the truth. But how tough has that made this on him?
What I'd ask you, how tough do you think it's been on him? Because you guys know him. You know how much he cares. You know how much he loves this university. You know how much he loves his teammates. You know that it's never, ever been about him, ever. I mean, ever has been about him. And when you have high expectations and you don't live up to them as an individual or as a team, there's disappointments. And but it's not over until it's over. And that's why, again, some people act like we're going to write him out of the script. He's not going to be written out of the script. He's not. And because he's been too loyal, he's worked too hard. And don't think people aren't watching how we handle this whole deal when a senior. I've been through it with seniors. I've been through it with really good players that struggle. But one thing you don't do, you always talk about never quitting, never giving up. And I don't think you can ever quit or ever give up on a player, ever. And especially when you have one that has been as loyal as John has been and has been as good a teammate as you could ever be around. And but you ask the question, does deep down inside, you know what bothers him? He has to deal with it. He has to deal with you guys asking him. He has to deal with everybody talking about it. But I can tell you this, I don't know if anybody's handled it any better, because he's had a tough time. But it's not because of his want to or his willingness. He's dealt with some injury. His hand was really hurt, but he kept playing. He dealt with that early in the year. He got sick. He dealt with that. And so he's dealt with a lot. It hadn't been a smooth year from a physical standpoint for John. But I can tell you, we're not ever going to quit on him because he's never going to quit on us.
Coach, I don't know how much Florida tape you've watched recently since the game's not till Sunday, but after losing 2 in a row and having 2 games postponed, they've won 3 straight. I don't know if you've watched them lately. What are they doing well at the moment? What do you guys have to take away?
Again, they're a different team than we played down there because the big fella back and how they play. But they're still a team that's Mike does a terrific job. He's going to run his sets. They're going to end up with a lot of ball screens. That's where they end up with the different things they run. Playing some zone, they're going to show some pressure, going to fall back and showing a little 3-2 zone at times. But they. I go back. I've got a lot of respect for Mike and the way he does runs his program, and it's just like you go back and you watch the game, and I mean, Jaden didn't play in our game there, and then they were down 2 good players, and the other guys came in and did a great job. But you can still take some things from it, and the biggest thing, and I think I started out talking about the biggest thing we got to take from it is we've got to take care of the ball. We've got to take care of the ball and got to make some shots. There's no doubt about that. But still, when you score 49 points, I'm not sure what else you can say other than that you're not going to win a lot of games scoring 49 points.
Grant Ramey.
Rick, when we talked to Des a few weeks ago, he mentioned that you guys were trying to almost create a chip on this team's shoulder because of how highly this team was thought of back in the preseason. Do you think with the ups and downs over the last few weeks that's been created, or there's been a humbling process, however you'd want to phrase it?
I don't know about, creating a chip on the guy's shoulders, this, that, or whatever. Again, my deal is I want to get guys playing at the highest level they can be playing. And individually, I mean, there's different ploys that you can try to get into motivating. And sometimes, when I think coaches, people talk to you guys ask those type questions. I'm from the old school, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. And if we can get ourselves back to practicing at the level that I know we're capable of, and we can get back to competing at the level that I know that we can. And then the question is, why do you have those? Because again, we got guys at work where there aren't many days here where our guys don't put the time in and the effort in that we want, but it still gets back to consistency, and it gets back to, what can we count on every single night? And that's what we haven't figured out. And we've had, think about it. We felt like we were rolling after the Kentucky game. Josiah goes down. We go to Florida. We were, I think, 10-1. At that point in time, that's when we were starting to play Keon and Jaden. All at once, Jaden's out of the game. He doesn't play. He goes through a period he doesn't play. We haven't been able to create it. And even though we've got some older guys, we still are playing some younger guys that are understanding some things for the first time, the difficulty of how hard it's going to be every night, going through every game is going to be different. But that's why I'm excited about these guys. And we've told them that, hey, everything we want is still in front of us except a regular season championship. And we've got a chance like anybody else if we can get it going to the way that we want to and get back to, again, almost like it's a new start for us, which there's a lot of teams thinking that way. I mean, I look around college basketball and I see teams that are rolling, then they lose 3 in a row. And that's not making an excuse. It's just the kind of year that a lot of teams have had. We've had it, but to be where we are right now with some of the things that we've dealt with, some you guys know about, some you don't. In some ways, I'm proud of these guys because we're, 2 young guys that have had to learn on the job with a lot less preseason, and have 2 seniors and a guy that I know that cares dearly, has had a really tough year, but yet I can only tell you they're pulling for each other. Coaches know that I know they know that we believe in them, and the biggest thing maybe is that we got to get them really believing in themselves again. If that's what it is, I don't know. I just know it's a really fine line between winning and losing. And the way you do that is that you prepare yourself from a basketball fundamental standpoint, go out, give it your best effort, do what your game plan is, and then you accept what the outcome is.
Gustavo, and then last call for questions.
Coach, speaking of chip on their shoulders, first time that Tennessee basketball is not ranked in the AP poll. And how do you see this affecting your team, yourself, not being ranked? I know you speak before about you don't care so much about ranks, but do you think it affects you guys not being ranked as the season wraps up?
I think you guys will probably be surprised how little college players sometimes watch college basketball. And are they aware of that? I think some point in time, but the fact of the matter is, you think about it, we've been ranked all year up until last week, which, there's a lot of teams that would love to be able to say that. Now, you asked me about rankings. Where do I want to be ranked? I want to be ranked there at the end. That's the most important thing to me. And I realize that rankings can get you good seeds in the tournament and all that. But still, I've coached teams that, I've said it before, that were playing well right now and didn't end up so well. Teams that weren't playing well, and they ended up well. So that's part of the whole season, your whole body of work. And I just like the fact that, think about it, that we've been ranked all year, and now that we're not, is it a big story? I think that shows you how far our program has come. Do we expect to be one of the best programs in the country year in and year out? Absolutely. Do we have the same goals as everybody talks about the blue bloods? Absolutely. And there's no difference. I mean, we got the same goals, and like those teams, we're still in a position to chase those goals.
Last question, Wes Rucker.
Rick, when you're talking about VJ on the defensive end, he's a guy who's so athletic, and then you watch some of his struggles sometimes. Is that just a lack of concentration or technique or what all kind of goes into that?
I think the biggest thing with VJ, because again, he's committed. He wants to work at it, and he would be the first one to tell you that he knows he's got a lot to learn about the game. What he has to do, he's going to have to, when he's not making shots, he's got to realize I can affect the game another way. He can't let a missed shot or something on the offensive end put him in a state of mind where he's just standing around, where he's not paying attention, where he's not taking care of details. VJ Bailey shouldn't get blown by the way he has at times. And to me, that's when you've got to have a short memory. When you miss shots, missing shots are part of this game. Defensive lapses shouldn't be a part of this game. There's no reason for that. And that's just a matter of being mentally locked in. And I would tell you that I think that's the biggest area that he's got to improve on. And if he can get that down, because he's improved a lot since he's been here, but that's got to be where he's got to really get better. When he's not making shots, he knows he can affect the game in other ways.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.